Hey guys, welcome back. Today I've got what could end up being a rather disturbing video. Today we're going to be explaining the strange and rather creepy conspiracies of the Halo Iceberg. Now, what is the Halo Iceberg, I hear you ask? Well, the Iceberg is essentially a way of organising theories and conspiracies based on their weirdness, their creepiness, and just the downright insanity of them. They start off pretty normal and vanilla above water, but the deeper and deeper you go beneath the surface, the stranger, darker, and more disturbing these theories get. Now, this Halo Iceberg in particular was created by Stocking_A, and today I thought it'd be rather fun and, in some cases, rather chilling to break down each tier and conspiracy within. Quick shout out to my Discord server that you should definitely join. I can promise you that this is the most iconic Discord server this side of Reach. You won't regret it. The link is in the description. So, let's waste no more time and begin our descent to the bottom of this dark iceberg. So, starting off nice and above water in the lovely blue sky, we have Grunt tier. First off, we have skulls. Now, everyone knows what skulls are. You find them in the levels on Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo 3 multiplayer, and also Halo 5. You pick them up, you can beat enemies with them, and when you pick them up, you unlock modifiers for the campaign. Pretty simple. Noble 6 is alive and is Master Chief. Good joke. I have an entire video dedicated to this, but the long and short of it is that Noble 6 is 100% categorically dead. Bungie considered him dead, 343 consider him dead, and the canon in general considers him dead, so he's dead and he's most definitely not Master Chief. Button combos, something that I think most people are at the very least aware of. They're prominent mostly in Halo CE, where you have quick camo, where when you pick up a camo, if you shoot the assault rifle, then the camo activates faster, and also double melee, where instead of just meleeing twice, you melee and then throw a grenade to cancel the animation, and then you can melee again, and you can double beat people really quick. And then Halo 2, of course, there's BXR, where you melee, you reload to cancel the animation, and then you press R to shoot, which causes like an insta-kill. Then there's BXB, which is where you melee, you reload to cancel the animation, and then melee again. And then there's double shot, where you can fire 2 bursts of a BR without an interruption, and also quad shot, where you put 2 double shots together, and so on. The Honor Guard Councillor. Now this is a really cool one. So at the end of Gravemind, once you've cleared out the Mausoleum of the Arbiter and you've killed the 2 camo elites that spawn, one more elite spawns, and I'm still not sure if this elite is a bug or like an intended feature, but this elite is an Honor Guard Councillor. He's wearing armor that has the kind of ornate detailing of the Honor Guards, but with a Councillor headdress and the typical white combat harness of the Councillor as well. Not sure whether this is a bug or not, but either way, this elite looks so cool and is kind of a testament to why I personally love Halo 2's elite so much. The armor variants in Halo 2 are the absolute best for me, and this elite just encapsulates that so well. Halo is a cool dude. Now, this is literally just a meme. Some guy posted some weird string of like semi-coherent text on 4chan in like 2007 about Master Chief, saying that I think Halo is a pretty cool guy. He kills aliens and doesn't afraid of anything, and ever since this has been a meme. So much so that it was even referenced at one point in Arby and the Chief.
But Master Chief is a pretty cool guy. He kills aliens and doesn't afraid of anything.
What the hell did you just say? That didn't make any sense.
Okay then, moving to the tip of the iceberg, we have the Marine tier. Starting off with the Grunt playing with toys on Delta Halo. So in the intro to Delta Halo and Halo 2, both in Classic and Anniversary, there's a Grunt playing with a toy, and what this toy is changes depending on the difficulty. So in Halo 2 Classic, on Easy, the Grunt is playing with a twig. On Normal, he's playing with a plasma grenade. On Heroic, he's playing with a Grunt and a Chief toy. And on Legendary, this Grunt is quite literally playing with fire. And then on Halo 2 Anniversary, it's changed a little bit, so the Jackal is actually taunting the Grunt with a toy, and again, this toy changes depending on the difficulty, so on Easy, he's taunting him with a Didact toy, on Normal, a Librarian toy, on Heroic, a Chief toy, and on Legendary, a Rampant Cortana toy. And speaking of toys, we have the MCC toys, which were just Easter eggs put into the maps on Halo 2 Anniversary that were little dolls of certain characters throughout Halo, so you could find these on various levels. There was a Chief toy, a Cortana toy, a Rampant Cortana toy, a Didac toy, a Librarian toy, a Truth toy, a Tartarus toy, and I think an Arbiter toy as well. The Flood Juggernaut. So this bad boy is something of an urban legend within Halo. The Flood Juggernaut is a massive flood kind of mini-boss that was cut from Halo 2 that is still left in the tags of High Charity, so can be spawned in a semi-working state. As you can see, this guy was really big. He looks somewhat of a big carrier form, kind of, with two massive tentacles. Originally, you were going to be able to fight him. He was going to be able to, like, climb walls and stuff and hit you with the tentacles, but Bungie, like many things in Halo 2, never got round to finishing him, so he's only left in the files. Master Chief cameo on the final level of Reach. Everyone knows about this, so on the final level of Reach, when the Pillar of Autumn takes off and the camera is inside the hangar, if you just look to the right, you can see Chief in a cryopod as a small reference to him and also CE. Legendary endings. So these are very well known. They're just secret cutscenes that you get for certain games when you finish them on Legendary. So in Combat Evolved, we got Johnson and the Elite hugging as the Autumn exploded. In Halo 3, we got Chief and Cortana on the Dawn finding Requiem. In ODST, we got Truth finding the Arc Portal underneath New Mombasa. In Halo 4, we got Chief's eyes being revealed, and in Halo 5, we got the reveal that Cortana had control of a Halo ring, which we now believe to be Zeta Halo in Halo Infinite. These are just cutscenes that give you like a small hint at what's coming next, basically. And the Scarab Gun, pre-MCC. So before the Scarab Gun was just a skull, like it is in MCC, there was only one way to get the Scarab Gun, and it was only on one mission, Metropolis. Basically, it spawned above a traffic cone on the top of these massive struts, like really off in the distance, and you either had to rocket jump up to it, which was really tricky, or get a Banshee to follow you through the tunnel and out into the gardens, and then you had to hijack it and fly it up, which was also really difficult. Man, I'll be honest, I do not miss having to do this to get the Scarab Gun. This was such a nightmare. So, moving beneath the surface of the water, we have the Dabbing Elite tier. Starting off with Halo 2 Vacations. Now, I had no idea what this was until I researched it and I was like, okay, that makes sense. So Vacations were basically what people called getting out of the map back in the day, and considering Halo 2's levels had a very small number of barriers and are known for being able to be broken out of very easily, Halo 2 Vacations were really popular on YouTube way back in the day. This is basically just getting out the map on Halo 2 and wandering around the extra geometry, which, as you can see, is something that I used to spend a long time doing on both Delta Halo and Outskirts. That style of level design is honestly something that I love, even if it was accidental. I really hope we can do that in Infinite. The cavemen on ODST, again, everyone knows about this. These are just the cavemen in the orbital station in the post-credit scene of ODST that Buck is having a very strange interaction with. And then also the family of monkeys on Halo 3. These are just those weird monkey cavemen things that you can find on Sierra 117. Kind of a strange Easter egg, I'll be honest, but it exists. The half-naked man on Gravemind. So if you start Gravemind on Legendary, number 1, may God have mercy on your soul, and number 2, you can see in the cutscene at the start, there is a weird naked man, or semi-naked man bouncing up and down in this crowd. That man is in fact Jason Jones, the co-founder of Bungie, and also this same Easter egg was in Halo 3 on a final mission as well. Now this doesn't mean anything sinister, it's just a joke that Bungie put in there, but I remember back in the day, around like my circle of friends, there was a weird theory going around that this person was actually someone at Bungie who had gone missing during Halo 3's development, and this Easter egg was put in the game as like a semi-memorial to him, but obviously that's not the case. That would have been very dark. That's not the case. It's just a funny reference, like a Bungie in-house reference to Jason Jones. He was also replaced by Frankie in the Halo 2 Anniversary cutscenes as well. The secret door on Crow's Nest, this is absolutely nothing, so as you're going towards the hangar bay on Crow's Nest in Halo 3, there are a bunch of doors that are just locked, and when you're coming back, one of these doors opens and you can go inside it, but it's just an empty room that's a dead end. I'm pretty sure this room is just an AI spawner. Nothing much to it. Okay, now this is an interesting one. Bungie wanted to end the series on 2. Now, Halo 2's original story was basically Halo 2 and Halo 3's merged together, but obviously that didn't happen because of Halo 2's, shall we say, rocky development. However, not too long ago, ex-Bungie member Lee Wilson posted the entire storyboarded story for Halo 2's original story, which kind of sheds light on this, so I'm going to break it down for you pretty quickly here. So basically what happens is the regular campaign goes pretty much as normal, and then at the end, Chief goes back to Earth and lands in Africa at the Ark, which at the time was on Earth, and then a final battle between the UNSC and the Covenant ensues there at the site of the Ark. During the battle, Covenant capital ships arrive, but it turns out these ships are allied, containing the Elites, Arbiter, Artas, Miranda, and Johnson to support, and they obliterate the brutes on the battlefield. Truth inside the Ark activates the rings, and then Chief, Arbiter, and Spark rush inside, where Arbiter kills Truth by snapping his neck, and Chief deactivates the Halos. The Ark then begins to fall apart, and that part of the game ends, and we don't find out what happens. It then cuts to a medal ceremony where Chief, Johnson, and Miranda are all still alive and all are receiving medals. But then it cuts back to the Ark where we find Arbiter and Spark in the ruins in the dust, where they find tombs containing human skeletons, which confirms that at the time of making these storyboards, Bungie still considered the Forerunners to be ancient humans. Spark then flies the Arbiter to safety, and we get shots of the actual ending of Halo 2 with Cortana and the Gravemind on High Charity. Now, whether or not this is meant to be an ending for the entire Halo series or not, we don't know. I don't think so, because clearly the Flood are still a threat. Maybe originally Bungie planned for Halo 3 to just be a pure Flood game, but I can see why they didn't do that. You need that variety of Covenant and Flood in there, so I doubt that this was meant to be the end of the series, rather it was just the end of the Covenant. Either way though, seeing a version of Halo 2's story which we all know underwent a significant amount of changes this early is really interesting. Okay, moving even further beneath the surface, we have the Elite Councillor tier, starting off with the Bloody Marine, which sounds kind of creepy, but it's really not. This is literally just a glitch that causes a regular Halo 2 Marine to spawn, but with the textures and the model of a dead or an injured Marine. It looks creepy, but it's really not. The Halo Reach radio conversations. Now these are pretty interesting. I'm not going to go fully in detail. If you want to watch a super in-depth video, go and check out Halo Cannons. He made a really good video about this a few years ago. But basically what these are is, on a bunch of Reach multiplayer firefight and campaign maps, there are these radios that play actual dialogue, and you can connect them together to make a sort of cohesive story. So these stories go as follows. One of them tells the story of the Spartan 2 team Beta Red, who was sent to Reach to defend its orbital defense generators. One talks about Halsey and her weird secret experiments. One has two Marines talking about the civilian evac operations on Reach and how realistically the prospects of it are extremely bleak. They estimate a roughly 2% survival rate for the civilians on Reach. One talks about James Ackerson and the Spartan 3s. One has two more Marines who are set to board the Autumn, talking about their plans for the zombie apocalypse. How ironic. One has two Marines discussing the Visegrad relay going down and the possibility that it might not be insurrectionists and rather the Covenant. One, that's found on Tempest, has a Marine and his lieutenant discussing what the hell this ringworld that they crashed on actually is. One that's found on Sword Base has Marines requesting air support outside the base, and they're offered the Aegis Fate, which is, interestingly, the frigate that's found on Sandtrap, but they deny it because having a frigate support them would be extremely overkill. And finally, one has a guy, possibly an insurrectionist given that it's found on Waterfront, informing people that the Covenant have indeed arrived on Reach, but that if they want to take it, they're going to get a full measure of nightmare sent their way. In the words of this badass himself, "Welcome to the nightmare, you sons of bitches. Welcome to Reach." This dude was clearly not about to give up his home without a fight. Okay, moving on, we have the Recon Skull, which is a secret and never before found skull in Halo 3 that I'm pretty sure doesn't actually exist, that back in the day people thought would give you recon if you found it, so it's clear to see why this skull probably doesn't exist. Now, there was originally an extra skull on Cortana that wasn't named or anything. I mean, me and my friends called it the Brute Skill Skull. I don't know why, but once you picked that skull up and carried it to the end of the mission, it gave you a Spartan laser at the start of Halo, but that wasn't the recon skull, that was something completely different. The recon skull, of course, was just one of many conspiracies back in the day that tried to explain how to get recon, and of course didn't exist. The hidden messages on Mausoleum Suite. Now this is really cool. This is actually really nostalgic for me, this one, because this is the first kind of conspiracy type thing that I ever got into back in the day. So yeah, this is pretty nostalgic. So basically what this is if you play Tartarus's theme backwards in the Halo 2 soundtrack, it reveals the following dialogue. Now, these hidden words are supposedly spoken by Mendicant Bias, which does make sense because Mendicant Bias was on High Charity at the time, so it does line up. All in all, pretty creepy and pretty cool. 343 Guilty Spark Alternate Dimension. Now this is just a weird glitch on 343 Guilty Spark where if you get back in the Pelican and then wander through that weird forest, it kind of spawns you in an alternate version of the level where there are certain things missing, certain things that haven't loaded properly. Realistically, this is probably just because you missed a loading zone, which causes things to not load properly, but it's kind of creepy when you frame it as an alternate dimension. Marathon. So Marathon was Bungie's franchise before Halo that is heavily referenced in Halo, even kind of to this day. And there are some out there that believe that Halo and Marathon's universes are connected. Obviously, Marathon is Bungie IP, so that can't be the case legally anymore, but it's definitely something cool to kind of think about. Bungie's obsession with the number 7. Now, anybody who was around during the Bungie days knows about this. Pretty much everything in Halo has some sort of reference to the number 7, which is Bungie's favourite number for whatever reason. And what's cool is that 343 have kind of carried this legacy forward, and even today, the number 7 still gets referenced and is kind of hidden everywhere in Halo. So, a few examples include 7 Halo rings, 7 Halo 3 terminals, John 117, AIs go rampant after 7 years, Guilty Spark's number, 343, is 7 cubed, and Penitent Tangent's number, 2401, is 7 to the power of 4. Halo 2 has 7 Master Chief levels, Halo 4 has 7 terminals, and in Halo 4, Chief is awoken in July of 2557, which, besides the 7 in 2557, July is also the 7th month of the year. That's just a few. There are so many. I've linked Halopedia's page on this, specifically down below in the description. The cancelled MMO. So this was called Titan, and it was being worked on by the developers of Halo Wars 1 before they were shut down. Ensemble Studios. So when they were shut down, of course, the project was cancelled, but some pictures of it did get released, and as you can see, there were some very, very strange assets made for this MMO. Okay, moving further down, we have the Prophet tier, starting off with probably the most iconic Halo kind of Easter egg of all time, the Ghost of Lockout. Now, back in the days of like Google videos, when the internet and kind of Halo videos in general were still very much kind of uncharted territory, seeing this thing pop up and go viral was really creepy. This video was really, really creepy back in the day. Basically, what happened was someone was playing on Lockout in a custom game, and all of a sudden this mysterious Spartan spawned and started wandering around the map when there was no one else in the game. Now, this ended up being a connection glitch, so it was nothing kind of creepy, or like Lockout wasn't haunted as some people suggested back in the day, but still, seeing this kind of early to mid-2000s footage of a glitch like this had a really unsettling aura about it. The Iraq War allegory. So this is basically a theory that the original Halo trilogy was meant to be an allegory for the Iraq War, where the UNSC represented America and the Covenant represented Al-Qaeda. It's not true, it's just a weird theory. Okay, I lied. This is the creepiest and most iconic Easter egg video of all time. The Mystery of the Tri-Gate. So basically what this was a really iconic video back in the days of like Google videos that again went pretty viral. There was some guy finding a switch in the middle of the lake on Delta Halo. Now people tried for ages to find out what this switch did when it was activated, but no one ever found anything. And basically there's a reason for that. It doesn't do anything. So during Halo 2, the Delta Halo level, for example, was built as one big level and then split into two halves, Delta Halo and Regret. However, because of this, some assets of Regret are still loaded on Delta Halo, but not in their full form. So this switch, which is actually from Zanzibar, it's not even one of the gondola switches, was just like a placeholder switch for the gondola that, because you're playing on Delta Halo, hasn't actually loaded yet, but for some reason the switch does load. That's literally all there is to it. There's no crazy conspiracy theory. It doesn't like spawn in the secret flood tank level or something. All that is an asset that is loaded, but the gondola that the asset is meant to be tied to hasn't loaded. But of course, that didn't stop people from the mid-2000s from spending like hours on end trying to find out what this switch does. There was also another one on High Charity as well that people thought was connected to this one, but it really wasn't. There was no secret crazy Easter egg that got unlocked when you activated them. It was just an asset that hadn't loaded properly. The sword-based secret room. Now, again, this is just something very simple. It's just unfinished geometry that was left in the sword-based level, which was reused, obviously, for sword base, for the sword-based map, and also for the package. This bit of the level was where, in the package, you go to descend to Halsey. Obviously, it doesn't have a purpose on only sword base or sword-based map, but you can still get in there. Interestingly though, in the Reach beta, there's a 2D cutout of Halsey concept art behind a desk in this room, because this was the actual room where that cutscene takes place, and obviously they were just kind of storyboarding it in-game. But yeah, there's nothing creepy attached to this, it's just an empty room. The Demonic Marines. Now, again, this sounds really creepy, but it's really not. There's a glitch that you can do in Halo 2 Anniversary with the Assassin Skull that turns enemies invisible, where basically you kill enough Marines to turn them into enemies, and then they get the camo effect, but when the kind of enemy state wears off, the camo effect doesn't wear off properly, and it distorts their face. The hidden switches on Halo 2. Again, I literally just described this for the Tri-Gate. Basically, because of the way that Halo 2's levels were designed, like in that they were designed as a whole level and then cut in half, if you skip forward to the next level before it loads, certain elements of it load or don't load. For some reason, it's typically switches that do load, but the object that they're attached to, for example, the gondola, doesn't. I don't know why, but that's just what it is. I Love Bees Season 2. So if you don't know, I Love Bees was a really cool marketing campaign / alternate reality game for Halo 2 that had one season, and people think that there's some secret second season out there, but it's not. That it doesn't exist, there's only one season. Ling Ling's head. Now this is very, very weird. So it's some weird Bungie lore / in-house joke about the severed head of a dog named Ling Ling that's being stored in formaldehyde in a jar in the Bungie offices. Apparently recovering the head was the 5th step in Bungie's, dare I say, iconic 7-step plan for world domination, and apparently you can also sometimes see the head in the clouds on Uprising in Halo 2, and also on Bungie Day it shows up on a sign on Zanzibar. Right, this is a weird one, Halo Chronicles. So, Halo Chronicles was Peter Jackson's weird, cancelled Halo game that Joe Staten, Mike Wu, and Paul Bertone were working on with Jackson and his Wingnut Interactive Studios in New Zealand between Halo 3 and ODST. So, Chronicles was meant to be a story that focused on the intimate and personal aspect of war, where you play as a Marine that would acquire an alien arm and eventually transform into a Promethean. So in this game, you could switch between regular and melee-only combat modes. The two weapons available allowed you to either push enemies away or stun them, and you could also double jump and do an auto-aimed long-distance dash in midair. Very, very weird. Apparently as well, there are loads of basic gameplay elements that were prototyped and also tested on the first 5 missions of Halo 3, like slowed movement and no recharging shields. Over the course of the game, the Marine would slowly transform into a Promethean and, wait for it, begin flying in low orbit, fighting Covenant cruisers with the ability to literally turn themselves into a missile and target specific bits of the ship. No, I didn't just make that up. Peter Jackson is a crazy dude. Apparently, gameplay prototyping was actually really far along for this game, but the story didn't get very far. And eventually, when Peter Jackson's Halo movie was cancelled, so was Chronicles. However, many elements of it trickled out into various other projects. For example, many of the more grounded gameplay and narrative elements worked their way into ODST, which Joe, Mike, and Paul returned from New Zealand to make after Chronicles was cancelled. The alien arm and the Marine transforming into a Promethean was reused in Neil Blomkamp's District 9, and apparently Joe has trouble watching that movie because of the amount of similarities that it has to his story ideas for Halo. And then of course Prometheans came back in Halo 4. The green door. Now this is far less mysterious than it sounds. Basically that large door that you first pass through on Sacred Icon turns green when you look back at it later on. Now, people think that this could be a reference to a coffee shop called the Green Door that was near Bungie's old offices in Chicago, but the reality is, when you hit a certain load zone on the level, it probably just deloads the shaders for the door, because you're not meant to be able to see the door anymore, thus giving it the weird green texture. Okay, we're starting to get a bit darker now, moving on to Oni tier. Starting off with the disturbing face on Backwash. Now, this sounds really creepy, right? But I can't find anything about this at all. No videos, no pictures, no forum posts, nothing. According to the creator of the Iceberg, there was an old video about a player finding a screaming face somewhere on the map, but I swear, I literally looked everywhere and I can't seem to find any trace of this, no matter how far back I look. I even went as far back as looking at Google searches from 2005 and 2006, but nothing. The Guardians pre-Halo 5. Now, the Guardian Sentinel was meant to be a boss in Halo 3 that you'd fight in the Guardian Forest level, where the Guardian map came from, but sadly this entire scenario and campaign level were cut. Now, thankfully, much to my excitement, it does look like the Guardian Sentinel, or something that looks very similar to it, is making a return in Halo Infinite, so maybe we'll get the Guardian Sentinel fight after all. But going back to the pre-Halo 5 Guardians, the Guardians were also what kind of killed you when you died from something that the engine couldn't determine. It said that you were killed by the Guardians. The Da Vinci Code on Halo 3. Now this was the topic of much talk and theorizing back in 2007, but again there's not much to it. Basically, Halo 3's engine uses this kind of texture as a default texture before a final texture is applied to an object. And for whatever reason, some objects, like these weird eggs on Sandtrap behind the towers, don't have their final textures applied. Now, it's called the Da Vinci Code Easter egg because the actual texture itself is like the crypttext from the Da Vinci Code, with the letters A through P sequenced in boxes over and over again. Halo Combat Evolved for the PS2. Now, this is a theory that the CE for the PS2 was once playable, but Bungie confirmed that it wasn't. However, this does, to me, kind of suggest that at some point, they did try and get Combat Evolved running on a PS2, so maybe somewhere out there a PS2 build does exist, but Halo CE for the PS2 was obviously never a thing. The face in Halo. So on Containment in Halo 2, there's a cloud on the Halo ring that actually has Chris Carney's face on it, who is an environment artist and designer and also software developer at Bungie. This texture is also on the moon on Standoff as well. The true hidden message of Mausoleum Suite. So apparently somewhere Marty said that we still haven't found the true meaning of the backwards message on Mausoleum Suite. What that means, I don't know. Maybe Mendicant Bias has more in store for us. Destiny adverts on Outskirts. Now, apparently there's a poster on Outskirts that looks like the Destiny cover art, but again, I literally searched the entire level, can't find a damn thing, so I don't think this is anything. The Cortana glitch. Now this is quite iconic. I believe this is specific to Halo 2 Anniversary, and basically what it is just a weird visual glitch where Cortana looks really broken and corrupted in the final Halo 2 cutscene, but because of the context of the cutscene of her being with the Gravemind, and of course what we found out later from Human Weakness about what the Gravemind did to her on High Charity, people take this glitch to mean more than what it actually is. It's just a visual glitch, that's all it is, but a creepy one at that. And finally, the Ghosts of Turf. So this is just another one of the many ghost glitches in Halo, much like the Ghost of Lockout. It's the exact same thing, but just on turf. I don't know why this is ranked lower and creepier than Lockout, maybe because the Ghost of Turf is less well known, but it's just the same thing. Okay, so moving even further underwater, we have the Monitor tier, starting off with the true meaning of Meg. So Meg is an Easter egg on Halo CE that has a really weird trigger. You have to kill Captain Keyes and then go into the room where all the Invincible Marines spawn, and on the roof there is an M in a bloody heart. Now, this is a reference to Jamie Griesmer, who was one of the lead designers at Bungie on Halo Combat Evolved. It's a reference to his girlfriend at the time, Meg. True meaning of Meg, I don't know what that means, if it's like a theory that maybe Meg is somebody else, but it's not. This is just a reference to Jamie Griesmer's girlfriend at the time. Halo DS, so make sure you take a seat because this one is interesting. So there's a really strange Halo build that exists somewhere out there that is for the DS, and it has a very weird history, right? So basically, rumors of a Halo for the Game Boy Advance popped up as early as like 2004, but were originally shot down by Microsoft as being fake. And then in 2005, rumors of a Halo game for the DS came up, which were then also subsequently shot down by Microsoft as well. However, in January of 2007, Matt Casamassina of IGN claimed that he'd played a build of Halo for the DS, despite Bungie and Microsoft both dismissing its existence. Then, a few months later, in July of 2007, both Sketch and Frankie of Bungie were interviewed and they were asked about this weird enigma, to which they replied, "It's very likely that somebody at some point in time created a prototype and tried to pitch it, which is probably what Casamassina is talking about. But there has never been an officially funded or sanctioned development of any sort of Halo DS game." Then, it gets weirder. In October of 2007, the plot just continued to thicken. Matt proved everyone wrong and dropped actual gameplay of this weird Halo DS game, and even went as far as saying that it wasn't developed by some garage developer, it was actually done by a major studio, a major publisher, a AAA publisher, but sadly he didn't reveal any names or sources. He also said that it was more than a year old as of 2007, and it was officially cancelled. So whatever was happening with this, it's clearly official to some degree. The gameplay is, as you can see, on a modified version of Zanzibar with kind of working AI, a full-on custom HUD, and even modified versions of Marty and Michael's music. So whatever went on with this game, it was clearly being developed or concepted in an official capacity by an official body at some point. Pre-Xbox Halo demo leaks, so this is just a theory that suggests that there are actually builds of the Mac versions of Halo that exist somewhere out there if you know where to look for them, but I strongly doubt it. Halo 4 Growling. Now this is really weird, right? All I could find about this after doing a really deep dive is an obscure Reddit post from 8 years ago by a guy called Raven Blackheart, where he describes how in every match of Halo 4, regardless of map, a noise erupts from his TV at least once. A noise that sounds like Halo 4's flood sound effects mixed with a digital laugh. Now, given how creepy Halo 4's flood sound effects are, I can imagine having them randomly pop out of your TV really distorted is quite unsettling, but realistically, this is probably just caused by a damaged copy of the game or like a scratched disc or something playing like a distorted flood sound effect when it shouldn't. It wouldn't be the first time that a weird bug or glitch like this had happened, so I don't think this guy's copy of Halo 4 was haunted by the flood or something. You never know, but I doubt it. Miranda Key's egg. Now, apparently this is referencing some sort of obscure rumor that the Halo 2 Miranda model has the word egg written on it, but again, I did a really deep dive, couldn't find a single thing related to this. The closest thing that I found were a bunch of posts about a weird shape on her face in Halo 3, but I don't think that's what this is referring to. Foreigner tank still on disc. So this is the rumor that apparently the mythical foreigner tank level from Halo 2 is still somewhere in the game files of Halo 2. This is the level that was meant to be set between Regret and Gravemind, and it would have Chief drive this foreigner tank through this big underwater cave, dodging Gravemind tentacles to eventually reach the Gravemind cutscene. This is obviously cut from Halo 2. Pretty sure it's not in the game anywhere, people would have found it by now. The only slight evidence there is of this is this bit of geometry here that might be related to the tunnel that you're meant to go through to the Gravemind, but for some reason this is only visible in anniversary graphics, and it's weird because this really does look like a tunnel. Like, this isn't just like a random piece of geometry, this looks kind of purposely carved out of the environment, so I don't know what's going on here. Maybe this is just some weird, like, anniversary Easter egg that Saber put in here to the original tunnel. Who knows, but I can assure you that the Foreigner tank is definitely not on the disc because people would have found it. The 7th column never existed. So the 7th column, among many things in Bungie culture, was also the name of a long-standing forum fan club. Basically, it was like a Bungie fan club. However, this theory suggests that this fan club was never actually real. Rather, it was only populated by Bungie members' alternate accounts, which, I mean, really? Who comes up with this stuff, dude? I doubt it. The Hurricane Ivan incident. Now, this is weird. Sit yourself down for this one. So, the story of this is that as a part of Halo 2's mysterious alternate reality game, Isle of Bees, one of the kind of tasks that people had to do for this game was go to various payphones that were scattered across numerous states in America based on coordinates that they'd found by unraveling the puzzle of the game. And what happened was when they picked up these payphones, a message would play from a character in the story, specifically an AI. Now, it's unknown whether these messages were pre-recorded or done live by the actors, but this has some relevance in a second. But while this game was going on, in the real world, Hurricane Ivan was raging across the southeast United States. But this didn't stop some absolute madman of a fan from, in the middle of a hurricane that caused 123 fatalities, going to a payphone during the storm and answering it. And when he did, the voice on the other end of the line broke character and said, "Dude, it's a hurricane, put the phone down." And if you ask me, that's actually kind of terrifying that he did that in the middle of a hurricane and the dude was like, "Right, this is not the time for Isle of Bees, you need to get to safety." That is kind of crazy. And finally, at the bottom of the iceberg, we have the Primordial tier. Starting off with Halo Zero full game. So Halo Zero was this really popular 2D side-scroller fan-made Halo game that popped up in like 2005, made by a guy named Doberman, where basically you play as Chief during the Fall of Reach in a 2D format. Now, the urban legend here is that there actually exists a longer version of Halo Zero out there on the internet somewhere, the full game version of Halo Zero, although the version that exists seems pretty complete to me. There's a very clear beginning and ending. It ends with Chief boarding the Autumn and going to Alpha Halo, so I don't know what other missions there are. I don't think this is true. Juliet. Right, now this one is creepy, right? It's definitely a LARP, but it's still pretty creepy. So the story goes, this guy was playing hide and seek on Blood Gulch on Halo CE when he just randomly started dying, and then this happened. He then ran to the nav point at the other base when his screen went black again, and the words "Find me" appeared on the wall in bullet holes. The mysterious Juliet then started talking, and when Distitioned asked who she was, she replied with "Let's play hide and seek," and then Distitioned then very quickly dies again, and the video ends. Now, this is definitely fake, right? Don't think this is some secret like haunted Blood Gulch or anything, this is most definitely fake, but at the same time, it's kind of creepy, and I see why it's down here at the bottom of the iceberg. The real reason Marty left Bungie. Now this is like peak tier tinfoil hat stuff. There is literally nothing that exists about this besides the dude who made the Iceberg saying that Marty saw some shady stuff and bailed, which, like, nah. We know the reason that Marty left Bungie. It was because of issues with Activision. Issues with Activision puts it very lightly, but this is just peak tier tinfoil hat. Cortana letters, real story. So the Cortana letters were the first pieces of Halo lore ever, although they're mostly not canon anymore. Basically, they were the ramblings of Cortana sent to Marathon fans in 1999 by Bungie to tease Halo, which at the time was gonna be their next IP. However, the real mystery with these letters is actually who wrote them. Now, Bungie now claims to have written them, but have apparently also gone on record multiple times saying that they don't know who wrote them. Chances are that was just them being mysterious and that they did write them. I mean, I don't know who else would write them, considering they were essentially marketing for the next game, but still kind of interesting to ponder. Exploding Xbox. Now, apparently, during the final days of Halo 2's online servers being live, some players experienced their Xboxes literally exploding when playing the game. However, I did some digging again, and I literally couldn't find a single forum post or video or anything about this. This just sounds like something made up. The Noble 14 anomalies. So, the Noble 14 were 14 people who tried to stay in the Halo 2 servers for as long as possible after Microsoft shut them down on April 15th, 2010. They stayed online in Halo 2 for as long as 26 days after the servers were shut down, before finally, on May 11th, Apache Nazir, the final Spartan left standing, was booted. However, this theory suggests that they saw and experienced some bad shit, in air quotes, like the exploding Xboxes, for example, but get this, were paid by Microsoft to stay quiet. I mean, I think this is about as, like, LARPing conspiracy theory as LARPing conspiracy theories go. Bad shit in game, like what? Did the Ghost of Lockout suddenly end up getting confirmed or something and they were paid to keep quiet about it? Like, no, this is just some guy LARPing. The real story of the last players of Halo 2 servers. Again, this just relates to the supposed bad stuff they experienced. Maybe the secret of the Ghost of Lockout popped up or something. Who knows, but nah, there's no real story. They just stayed in the servers for as long as possible until they were all booted. And finally, the May 11th incident. This refers to the final anomaly, in air quotes, which is basically just when Apache Nazir, the final Spartan left standing in Halo 2, was booted from the servers. It's no incident, there's no anomaly, he was just booted from the servers. It's that simple. And so, there you have it, the Halo Iceberg in full detail, from the very simple theories to the kind of weird and unsettling and just downright ridiculous conspiracy theories. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's a bit different to my usual stuff, but I felt like, I don't know, doing something different for once. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I want to give a massive thank you to all of my amazing patrons for the continued support over there, as per usual. I really appreciate you guys. And thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And I'll catch you all in the next one.